All right, I am Ed Carbajal for MMAnews.com. I'm about to do the 7 takeaways. There's lots of news to get to, but before I get into it, if you subscribe to MMAnews.com's YouTube channel, we've got interviews with Felicia Spencer and Neil Magny talking about their upcoming fights. So make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. All right. I know there's a lot of news to get to, but obviously UFC 252 was last night, so we'll get right into it. I'm using the headset today because I've got some visual aids that I want to use. When I woke up this morning, I saw that the whole eye poke thing was trending from what happened with the main event last night at UFC 252. So I did submit my 7 takeaways. I usually like to use that for this, but for some reason, it hasn't been published yet. MMAnews.com. So that would be nice. But luckily, since it's mine, I have a draft of it, so I'll be using that. Let me just pull it up here because obviously there's more than just eye pokes that happened. So, but we'll get to the main event right off the bat. Obviously with Daniel Cormier, that's his retirement fight. So, he's an Olympic competitor, hard on himself. I'm not going to, I'm not going to kick a guy when he's down or whatever. But I'm really not when I say what I'm saying about him. Just that he, he was really hard on himself, talking about how he's fought 3 trilogy, with light heavyweight, the stuff with Jon Jones, and this thing with Stipe Miocic. I wouldn't call it a rivalry per se with Miocic because obviously they were both respectful to one another. But I mean, in the fight game, you got to turn it up to the point that it's violence. They're hitting each other, so they have to definitely get some type of animosity going to try to knock each other out the way that they have in the past. So that's just the fight, the nature of the business and the sport. But anyway, so I woke up this morning as I was looking for my 7 takeaways piece to be published at MMAnews.com, and checking on Twitter, I saw that the whole thing with the eye pokes was trending. That happened between so there were one for, just like there were 1-for-1 in their trilogy match as far as knocking each other out. There were also during the fight last night, there were 1-and-1 for eye pokes. One seemed to be significantly worse than the other, and obviously it was Daniel Cormier's eye was far worse than the poke that he gave Miocic in I guess that was round 1 or 2. But anyway, so when that happens, with all the eye, every time an eye poke happens in the UFC, they talk about changing the gloves. It's been going on for years. I mean, the UFC has instituted uniforms and stuff like that, and they did the Reebok thing. So they've changed a lot since they came around, but they haven't changed the gloves. I don't know if it's just a branding or marketing thing that they've been known for. And if you've, I actually don't have a UFC glove available. I have the gloves that I've trained with in my time in martial arts. So that's the visual aids that I'm using today to get into the eye poking thing. So, the UFC glove, it goes right, it covers just up to this knuckle here, right? So one of the things I was asking was, so I tweeted an article from 2014. MMA Junkie had spoken with Bjorn Rebney. If you don't know who Bjorn Rebney is, he is the former president of Bellator MMA. Him and Everlast had designed a glove that was supposed to be better to protect fighters' hands. But the one of the things that it said it would do was curve the hand a little more, so to prevent the fingers from going out. And this was in 2014. I think Coker took over in 2015. So maybe the Everlast glove thing didn't get to be pushed out as far as it was. But I tweeted the article, and in the article he says he was willing to share the technology with other promotions, so to protect fighters' hands, so that there would be the less likelihood of them injuring their hands. It didn't say anything about eye pokes, but I mean the design might help lessen eye pokes. Someone would really have to do. I hope. I mean, maybe someone has done it, and it's. I just because it came up this morning, I didn't have time to look for it before I recorded this. But there are other gloves out there that guys train with and use for martial arts, and so you look at gloves like Karate Combat, the old school Pride. If you've ever watched Pride Fighting Championships, I know Rogan has said in the past that he liked those gloves. And there's a Shuto style design, which that's the visual aid I have for you. So let me show it to you. I'm wearing this one, made in Thailand. That's the brand, right? So I this was from my karate days. We did some very light grappling, as far as I mean, obviously you can't collar grab with the thickness of it, but you look at the thickness of the padding here, and as I reach out, like this is how much of the finger that's exposed. You add hand tape and the hand wraps that they do for fighting, it would probably be lesser. You'd probably need a bigger glove to fit it in there. But it's got the open palm design just like the UFC gloves. Um, but this is so this is like the Shuto style. I tweeted earlier about Shuto style gloves. These were made in Thailand. They're very hard leather, and again, these are from my karate days, so these are almost like 20 years old. They're kind of falling apart, if you can see right there. But so this is an option, and if you've watched the first season of Tough, because I mean, this is about as deep as if you look at the still. By the way, if you look at the still of Stipe Miocic's eye poke to Daniel Cormier, this is about as deep as it went. Like that. I mean, this is actually a little less than what, because that eye poke, the Miocic to Cormier eye poke is pretty bad. If there's a lot of still images out there that you can probably find to see how bad it is. And actually, just before I started recording this, it looks like he's got a torn cornea. So that's how bad that eye poke was. If you watch the post fight, he did do one interview before he left the Apex to go to the doctor and get his eye looked at. He said he couldn't see anything, that it was just black out of that eye. So I mean, but he also poked Miocic. So what would have happened? The fight would have, the worst case scenario, the fight stopped for no contest, or he would have just got the warning that Miocic would have got the warning that Cormier got with the eye poke. It happens, and a lot of people are bringing up the gloves, which is why I'm showing this as an option. Maybe it's time for the UFC to evolve their glove, their glove techniques or their glove design. So this is a really old one, the Shudo style. And then I have another one here that's a little less padded, but it's made by a very well-known manufacturer of jiu-jitsu, MMA equipment, Muay Thai equipment. So I'm putting this on so you can see it's almost similar, less padding. Obviously, you can see the branding. Hayabusa makes this one. Feel free to throw me a sponsorship, Hayabusa, if you want to. But like if you look here again, it's hard. I mean, with the padding, the fingers aren't out that much. It might produce some protection for eye pokes. This is an option. And I was bringing up the first season of Tough. They used to use a lot of stuff from Combat Sports International, which made a lot of popular training equipment at the time, the first season of The Ultimate Fighter, and they made a glove similar to this design. So Karate Combat uses something like this too. And actually, if you check out Joe Rogan's podcast when he has Boss Rutan on when they're first talking about it, he looks at them as a possible, because it's enough for grappling. And when you look at the grappling in MMA, I mean, gloves do kind of make a difference as far as like being able to grind your hands in for chokes and stuff like that. But that's why the guys train with them on. And, I mean, it's harder to escape arm bars because when you have a glove at the end, I took it off, but you have a glove at the end, and during the escape, your hand can get cinched up, and the glove makes like a knob. If you ever watch, I forgot the name of the documentary. There's a documentary where in Australia, I think it's Australia, wherever baboons are. So there's they show how like there's the way the natives find water is because they know the animals know where to find fresh water to drink. So what they do is they'll put like a salt block in a tree, and the baboon, wants to eat the salt, so they'll taste the salt and eat it. But when they go in the tree to grab it, because they made a fist, their hand gets caught in the little tree knob, and the person following the baboon will free them so they can follow them to the water. Point of that is that this is a slimmer than when you have your hand is obviously slimmer, and until you wrap it and put a glove on it. So that might be the issue with those options for gloves that I just showed. But either way, I mean, it's UFC is going on 26 years. You've instituted uniform policies. Maybe it's time to do some glove change policies. But I mean, that's that. So let me get into the 7-day takeaways, which will hopefully be published at MMAnews.com sometime today. But I have the draft, so I'm going to read it off to you. So one of the things that the first thing that stood out, just so you know, I start writing it at the beginning of fight week. And one of the things that stood out was we hadn't seen one of these big deal press conferences for a pay-per-view since the pandemic started. So they actually, it was at least in Vegas anyway. It was nice to see one for the whole. It was nice to see one because I think UFC 249 might have been the last big one that we saw that wasn't like a Zoom one. What we've been seeing lately from a lot of promotions because of social distancing practices that they have to do for fight week and stuff. So the one we saw in Vegas at the Apex with Miocic and Cormier, it was welcome. Not as entertaining. People like to rate press conferences and stuff like that. That's not the competition. The fight's the competition. So I don't see people asking who won the press conference. No one wins a press conference. Maybe the media wins a press conference. And the UFC, obviously, because it's promotional for them. But anyway, it was nice to see. That was actually my first takeaway from the week. And then as obviously when fight night came, they won fight of the night. Kai Kamaka and Tony Kelly. That was the opening bout. And if you're a fan of the striking aspect of martial arts, that was probably one of the best opening fights. That, I mean, halfway through it, through the round 2. It was definitely something that you were like, this is definitely like, those guys will probably never be on the Fight Pass, or even though it wasn't on Fight Pass. I don't know why it was advertised as being on Fight Pass, but they wanted to be on a ESPN broadcast. But who cares? We all got to see it, which is the point. And it was one of these fights that I think for two guys that opened up the night. I doubt they'll ever be that low on the card again. Whoever they're matched again, they're going to be like early prelims, like ESPN prelims. But those both Kai Kamaka and Tony Kelly, they got the fight of the night bonus, and they absolutely deserved it. It was one of the ones that you called as soon as you saw it, and you couldn't help but see that coming for them that night. And then so the other thing that was and it's funny because the podcast I do, Coast to Coast Combat Hour, that I do every Tuesday with Matt Hawkins, we talked about the size of the cage, 25 foot. I think it was the actual measurement of the cage at the UFC Apex. It's the same cage that they use for Contender Series, and I guess they're going to use that on Ultimate Fighter, which apparently is coming back. Dana White announced at the post-fight press conference last night. So they were saying that whether or not if it was going to matter, if it was going to make a difference in the main event, especially with Cormier's wrestling. And I think Stipe might have said something at the post-fight press conference that he does prefer the bigger cage, but it is what it is. I don't know. So the counter argument when Matt brought up the cage size on my podcast, my question was, I wonder if it really does make that much of a difference, because these guys in their fight camps, I don't think that they're training in the competition sized cages. But I mean, I know wrestlers probably prefer the bigger cage so they have more space to drive for their takedowns. But I don't know if that was something that obviously Cormier was so upset with his loss. He'll probably comment on it later. But Stipe, he was the winner. He said he would have preferred to have a bigger cage, but it is what it is. I mean, he still won, so I don't know if that's worth bringing up. But I have a feeling it's always going to come up, especially for all these events at the Apex, especially when the size of the cage becomes public knowledge. People are going to make they're going to talk about it. So, and then one of the upsets of the night, I don't know if it was really an upset, but he was a plus 200. Last I checked before the fight, Marlon Vera was a plus 240 underdog against Sean O'Malley. So he yelled out, "Welcome to the Cheeto Show." So that's what I used as the subtitle for that takeaway. Obviously, the upset with Chito Vera. I mean, in the fight before that, they were saying that he got robbed. So they're saying he got robbed. So I'm just laughing at comment. I forgot that the comments are coming in. I'm streaming this on Periscope as well. But so he won his fight against Sean O'Malley, and people are breaking down that fight this morning. Sean O'Malley's foot turned as he was stepping in with one of his feints, and as Joe Rogan actually mentioned, it was reminiscent of Michael Chandler's Madison Square Garden fight against Brent Primus, where the calf kicks kind of numbed up the nerve on the shin to make him make the foot kind of lose control of your own foot so that you can't find your footing. So if you watch the replay, Sean O'Malley stepped forward and kind of turned his ankle, and it messed with him the whole fight. He tried to get through that round, but when your mobility is affected in the fight, it's definitely going to turn the tide for you. And people were trying to write it off as a circumstance or not something intentional, but it looked like around shout out to Fight Oracle for putting it out there. The video, if you use video on Periscope or Twitch or anything, you get hit with a copyright thing, so I can't put it up. But it's around the 250 mark of that round. Vera does land a calf kick. Everyone calls it a calf kick, but they're kind of attacking that outside thinner bone on that part of the leg. But with all the nerves, if you've ever jammed your shin against something, you know that hurts. So imagine someone doing it over and over again. You're eventually going to lose feeling in your foot and the like. So anyway, but that was a big upset, and John Anik made the comment that he can build Chito can build his name up off of Sean O'Malley, and it looks like he might have done that. So best 2 out of 3. That's for the main event, man. The thing about this trilogy, obviously, about the heavyweights, greatest of all time, and the legacy and stuff like that, is the way that it happened. I always say best 2 out of 3 because it's like video game rules, in Tekken or Street Fighter. The true winner, you kind of get 3 chances. So it's best 2 out of 3 before you move on to the next one. So first one, Cormier won, knockout. Second one, Miocic won by knockout. So it was only right that poetic in a sense that it went by decision. It went to a decision. The eye pokes and stuff sucked, but my question is, would it really have made a difference? Like, would it have really mattered if the eye poke was you liked Fight Sessions likes the analogy of thank you, appreciate the comment. It would, if Miocic just got a warning, the fight would have gone on, and then someone said the worst case scenario, if it was a no contest, then this trilogy would have ended in one of the worst ways possible. It sucks that Cormier's cornea is torn or damaged, but I don't know. I just feel like there was points there. I'm sure he'll open up about it, but the wrestling, like his wrestling in that first round, I thought won him the round, and but even but he did get dropped, and obviously the I think the controlling against the fence may have worked against him, even though he might. I think maybe in rounds 2 or 3 he was outpoint before he got dropped. He was getting outpointed. He was outpointing Miocic on the scorecards, but would it have made a difference? Who knows? If I don't think the eye poke would have made that much of a difference. And even Dana White commented it during the post-fight press conference. Was would it have would they're 1-1 for eye pokes, so it is what it is. And then it was Daniel Cormier was adamant about retiring, and one of the things he said, he did do a post-fight interview with Joe Rogan, and I apologize for looking down on my phone, but again, I'm looking at my draft from the 7 takeaways piece that will hopefully be published at MMAnews.com by the time I submit this video. Anyway, the one thing he said that was motivating him more towards retirement, which you never know. Guys like him that are competitive. I mean, you got to remember he's a wrestler from the Olympics, and we already know by now a lot of fighters say they're going to retire and then they wind up not retiring. Coming back a couple of years after once they get some rest and heal up all their accumulated injuries. So you never know. But I mean, he is 40, and combat sports is definitely a younger man's sport, especially MMA. But so one of the things he said was he mentioned his 2 trilogy fights. You see, he had the trilogy rivalry with Jon Jones, and then was it? I'm trying to count. Well, he mentioned the 2, with light heavyweight. He mentioned his rivalries with Jon Jones. He cited that the whole light heavyweight title issues, and then this one with Stipe Miocic. And he mentioned how he came out on the losing side of both of them. So, of course, because of the competitive nature of the way his mind works, he's being hard on himself. I think he needs to recognize, especially in retirement, when you look back on your career, you still had to win those titles before you lost them and got involved in any type of rivalry with anyone, whether it be Jon Jones or Miocic. It doesn't matter the rivalry, that you were still champion at one point. Before you lost the title, you had to win it. And inside as a commentator, as an analyst, the stuff he does with coaching fighters, I think in all honesty, Daniel Cormier is being too hard on himself. He'll probably tell me to go F myself if he sees this, but the fact of the matter is, I mean, that's the championship that you want to have as a legacy for the sport of mixed martial arts. As an ambassador for the sport. He's still going to be calling fights in the future, so it's not like he's going away forever. So I honestly think he's being too hard on himself, and he's still definitely UFC Hall of Famer, definitely a legacy established, and greatest of all time category, Mount Rushmore, whatever you want to call it. Daniel Cormier doesn't need to prove anything to anybody except himself. I mean, and that's probably where the problem lies if we do see him come back. Even Dana White doesn't know what he's going to do because of the way that one of the things he said in his post-fight interview that made Dana White smirk was, because obviously, as a promoter, he wants names that draw to keep fighting. But Cormier did say, I don't see myself any reason for me to fight again if it's not for a title. So that right there makes you wonder, are you going to come back for one more again? I mean, but he did ask, he's like, are you going to, what do I bring him back for? A fourth one with Miocic? I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't think there's nothing left to prove. I mean, he tried his best against both Jones and Miocic, but again, I mean, it was the titles that he did hold. I mean, never mind the UFC. Look at the stuff he did in Strikeforce. I mean, there really is nothing left for him to prove, and he's definitely, for me, he is definitely my greatest heavyweight of all time for mixed martial arts. I mean, I would say, I like, everyone talks Fedor. I like Fedor. I would say Fedor, Daniel Cormier, and then whoever else you want to include after that. But for the heavyweights in MMA, we're definitely building a best greatest of all time list of guys that are leaving or on their way out, and Cormier definitely got nothing left to prove. I would prefer, especially with the cornea damage that we're hearing about this morning, I would prefer nothing, that he not fight, but we'll see. And then obviously, you always get somebody else chiming in, whether it be Conor McGregor for the weight classes that he can or has fought in, and it looks like Jon Jones has jumped on that parade, or jumped into that category with overall rated in one. Yeah, Fight Sessions chiming in. I'm sorry, I'm reading the comments here. I'm gonna put that up. Overall rated one of the best heavyweights ever. Such a great guy. I agree 100%. He's just a nice person overall with all the coaching and stuff that he does. So, but with the last few minutes I have left, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Jon Jones putting out his teasers that he's coming after heavyweight titles. Him and the UFC had some beef during the start of the pandemic. After he defended his title against Reyes, and then I know there's got to be something in the works. Joe Rogan, they put his tweet out where he said that he was going to be coming for the heavyweights, because he wants to. He's definitely dominated the light heavyweight division, and people were talking about a super fight for Jon Jones at heavyweight. It looks like he's interested, and I'm an old head, so I don't know much about I don't know much about what goes on Instagram, even though I'm on Instagram, but I don't use it that much. But he said that Jon Jones seems to be bulking up, which looks like he has intentions to prepare. Maybe this was all a ruse. This call me when you get your stuff together, UFC, for him to bulk up and make a run at heavyweight. So it looks like, and Jon Jones and Francis Ngannou both commented they want to come for that belt. Obviously, that's Ngannou's division. Dana White said he's definitely number one, but Jon Jones obviously wants a shot at it. So some interesting stuff happening at heavyweight for in the UFC now that with DC removing himself with his retirement, and Miocic defending the title, there's some really interesting fights to make there. Maybe you do a Ngannou. If Jones really wants it, maybe they set it up, because I know that folks would love to see Ngannou versus Jon Jones, right? A true test for Jon Jones is really good, but with the weight difference and the power in Ngannou, that would definitely be something to see. It's like we wanted to see Anthony Rumble Johnson versus Jon Jones. We never got to see that, so we got another heavy hitter at heavyweight. That would be nice to see. So maybe you do a number one contender, even though Ngannou is a number one contender. The UFC likes to sell their pay-per-views. I think people would buy into a Jones Ngannou main event for a shot at Miocic, who just fought 5 rounds. He's going to need some time off if he fights again. Maybe make for a nice. They're obviously not coming to the Garden with the coronavirus stuff going on, so maybe that'd make for a nice November pay-per-view or end of the year pay-per-view for the UFC. Even though Adesanya Paulo Costa's coming up soon, and looks Dana White's already calling that fight of the year, but you never know. Look what happened with Adesanya and Yoel Romero. So I was expecting fireworks there, and we didn't get them. So anyway, that's it for the Sunday submission. This is Sunday submission number 7 for MMAnews.com. Ed Carbajal, I am tapping out, and if you like these, by all means, please leave comments and stuff like that over at the MMAnews.com YouTube channel. That's it for me. Tapping out. I'll see you next week.